Cowardice asks, the question, is it safe? Expediency asks, the question, is it politic? Vanity asks, the question, is it popular? But conscience asks, the question, is it right? And there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but he must do it because conscience tells him it is right.
Every time our country stands in the path of danger, an instinct seems to summon her finest first, those who truly understand her. When freedom shivers in the cold shadow of true peril, it's always the patriots who first hear the call. When loss of liberty is looming, as it is now, the siren sounds first in the hearts of freedom's vanguard.
Fighting for humanity and against globalism, one mind at a time. It's the Freedom Link with Joe Joseph.
Welcome, everybody, to a 24th of June episode of the Freedom Link. Scotty and I just kind of got together, and boy, it's been a crazy 24 hours of drama over in Russia and Europe and everywhere. People are probably like us.
Crazy week of just all kinds of wildness, man.
What the heck just happened to us?
Right.
Man? We got steamrolled with like drama of, you don't get that drama too often. Not on that epic level that we saw in the last 24 for sure. And I say drama because there ain't no telling. You're telling me that wasn't a staged event? Come on. And there's reasons why you do stuff like that. There's reasons why you bolster the population, especially one that is just bleeding people. If you go and look down at the southern border, there's a lot of Chinese and a lot of Russian people trying to cross the border at the southern border. Those numbers have gone up dramatically. Not to mention all of the defectors from choosing not to want to fight there, and the fact that I think they lost 220,000 troops so far. And this is a Russia that's been depleted from a population standpoint, because in that communist society, big families were frowned upon. So you had population control that really decimated that population. Now they don't have a generation to really replace the current one. They're aging rapidly, much like China, much like Japan. And they're sending everybody, all their able-bodied men, over to Ukraine and killing them off. And what does remain, well, they don't want to stay, and or there's a shortage of labor, there's a shortage of materials. We're facing the same thing. We're seeing it, shortage of labor, supply chain disruptions constantly. We've never really recovered because it seems like one thing after another keeps kind of knocking the top, and it's starting to kind of wobble a little bit. A lot of people, dude, I find, tie these events to biblical prophecy. And yes. I got an issue with that. A lot of people get dragged in, and believe me, this is number one. First and foremost, biblical prophecy, as most of you know, is something that I've always been interested in, and Ange and I have been doing God knows how many years of research into the Bible, the historic significance to it, the truth behind the antediluvian period, all that kind of stuff, to really get an accurate view of what history really was like, So, and then what you come to find out, of course, is that history was very, very different than what we're taught. When you talk about giants 500 feet tall and larger, other non-human beings out there that we interacted with, it really is Lord of the Rings in every way, shape, and form. You know, the dwarves, the elves, the elongated skull, red-headed giants. You know, Sasquatch. It's all real. It's real. You know, why the push? Why the push to hide it at this point? Well, because our whole belief system, our whole structure of like education, and this is a global thing, right? This kind of goes back to, honestly, when you look at things like Alice Bailey and the Lucius Trust and how they and the Rockefellers kind of work together. That's the United Nations printing press is basically what it is. And they pushed all this stuff out. This is all like Blavatsky type stuff, New Age. And it's all meant to get people ever so slightly off the path of God, if you will. Whatever spirituality takes it, you know, that road. So then the people that actually do, you know, open their hearts and say, you know, take me where I need to go. Help me understand. You know, he always said, seek and you'll find it as long as your heart's open to it. And it's true. And that's where I differ with a lot of these guys and gals out there that push the prophecy thing down people's throats by taking advantage of these global situations. And they're bad. Don't get me wrong. And the world is bad. It's crazy. It has never been as nutty, Scotty, as it is now. I mean, World War II and World War I was pretty bad, right? I'd say. But even then, you still had more order to things. You still had, it was a much more innocent time. There's too many things now that have been seen that can't be unseen and can't be undone. When genies are let out of the bottle, it just ends up really mucking things up. This is why Rome fell. You can't
go backwards on the corruption of society.
You can't. You really can't. So yeah, and the Greeks, of course.
They all had their child lovers and everything.
Yeah. So the debauchery always precedes the collapse. That's the one thing you have to understand. And you see it in every culture. The Romans, the Greeks, they all lost morality. It just ended up going away. Why? Well, because it's the right thing to do. It's equity. You see. It's ridiculous is what it is. You know, if you think about it, what does sexuality have to do with anything in the workplace? You go in there, you be professional. Right. What the hell does that have to do with LGBTQ, anything like that? Who cares? What you do on your time is your time, right? Who cares? So yeah, all right, but now the genie's out. So there's no going back. This is that demoralization that happens always pre-collapse of any world dominating power. Every time. So I find it. Does that mean, by the way, that the world's going to end? Did the world end when Rome collapsed or the Greeks?
Right.
No.
That's what I was just about to say.
The Medes or the Persians.
Just because there's a collapse does not mean that it is the end times and that, that it's the end of the world or anything like that. I mean, we've gone through these cycles and we've gone through these events all throughout history, and that's the problem I have is you have a lot of people out there running that grift, and taking advantage of people,
right.
Saying,
that's the big,
trying to act like they're the ones who know prophecy. They're the ones who are able to,
it's crap.
No.
It's crap.
First of all, when
you bring money into it like that, in that regard, I have a problem with it. I've always felt like the stuff we do here is kind of like it's my way of giving back. That's why I never ask for anything and I don't do things like that. I can't. I just don't.
Right.
And when you bring money into it, it brings a bias that you just can't you can't ignore. Even the best person can't ignore it. And it will drive you to skew the message because you need the funding. Because for whatever reason, and your intentions can be good, you have to kind of say like doomsday and all of this. Why? Because it brings in, you'll start to see a trend where, oh, I get more donations if I do this, if I do that. So you never really follow the truth, where the truth is the real story, and kind of walk it all back and do whatever you're doing. You know, there's always things that get in the way of it. So you don't want that to cloud your vision. You just open your heart, you go.
And it says right there in the Bible itself that no man knows the time and the day.
No, you can get a good idea. You get there's indicators. See, this is the problem. There's indicators that
right.
We should be able to, those that have done their homework should be able to know and understand. But the problem is there's also a calendar that goes with it. And that calendar is very important as well. And you have to understand it from the standpoint of the people that wrote it and the calendar they were using, which in this case would be the Hebrew calendar, right? And the original one. And if you do that and you start walking it back and you understand the actual, like the feasts and the real high holy days and what those significance were, the significance of those events were relative to prophecy. Because every year, if done right, you could actually walk that whole path. It's almost like the Catholics do with the Stations of the Cross, where you walk the Stations of the Cross, and it's kind of morbid, and it's just really like, ooh. That's the thing, you know, with Catholicism is that it's like you
There's
go
a lot
into
of dark, morbid stuff that goes on.
You go
there.
into a dungeon, right? You sit on this wood bench, basically, and it's awfully uncomfortable, right? And then it's all repetitive motion stuff the whole time, you know.
Very ritualistic.
Then, and that's the thing. So you're going through.
Right.
That's when you go through your Bible and stuff like that. And God's kind of given. I think it was like Jeremiah. It's giving him like some. Well, here's the do's and don'ts of things, dude. This is how you do it. This is what you don't do. And it's like, don't be like the heathen. Don't chant like this and repetitive motion and all. Just basically saying everything that the Catholic Church does. Don't do that. Don't.
Yeah, like I said, they do a lot of very ritualistic
they do it weird,
sort of
weird.
thing. Yeah,
and then if you go to the Vatican too, it was the nice thing about being in the military is you got to go all over the world, and I got to go see a lot of these places and do a little exploration. And they got this statue in there, and everybody rubs the toe of it as they're walking through, and it's supposed to be Peter, right? And everybody's like, "Oh, it's Peter." Oh yeah, and it's like, you know how it is. It's almost like how they do the Humpty dance at the Wailing Wall, you know, and they kiss his foot. Well, funny enough, that statue wasn't always Peter. You see, because that was actually taken by the Romans, and that was Jupiter. See, that was Jupiter before it was Peter.
Like, hey,
and then somebody said, "Omni Domini dibbly do. You once were Jupiter, and now you're Peter too." Boom. And there it goes.
Right.
And it's Peter. And everybody's like, psh, but see, it's all bull. It's all bull. And that's the thing. People end up doing things and they get involved because their heart is seeking. They're looking for this stuff. They know something's wrong. They know they have a true hunger for this. So they start to seek. And when they do, they run across these that actually, you know, they're giving you some really good stuff. I'm sure you can pick the truth out of it and whatever, but you're not getting what you're supposed to be getting because it's clouded with crap that drives you to donate or drives you to tithe in one way, shape, or form.
And that's where I have a problem. It also just drives people to be full of anxiety and
Anxiety,
actually,
yeah, very much
and
so.
it's in a way, it's another form of playing on people's fears and worries and causing extra stress and anxiety in these in people, making them believe that, oh my god, any day now, the end is near, the end's coming, the collapse is gonna happen next week.
Yeah.
Now, we're gonna,
see though, I understand also the need for community, because
Right,
at our base we're tribal in nature.
Mhm.
A lot of people talk about equality in so many different ways, but we're not programmed for that. Whether you have a star on your belly or not doesn't matter. That stuff is transparent, right? Should be, but unfortunately people take advantage of that too and stoke division and all that crap. Yeah. But
And look, are there going to be hard times ahead? Yes.
Sure.
Are things going in that direction that look like, hey, things
dude,
things
our
might not.
ecosystem.
Yeah, but
And I mean, when I say
to-
ecosystem, the human ecosystem
Right.
is so fragile, so incredibly fragile,
Yeah.
and we take it for granted every day. I'm not talking about like environment, yeah, too. Okay, but
And here's another thing that I think people need to think about, right? Because
that?
we look at everything through the lens of our experience, of our own experience, and the time in which we exist, right? But people should go and look at how many doomsday and end of the world cults there were back during the Black Plague.
Oh yeah,
During the Middle Ages, a lot of people believed that was the end of the world, that God was imposing his wrath on the human race and on humanity and killing everybody, and that whoever was going to be left were the ones that were going to go to heaven, right? That was the end of the world, and you're talking about a pandemic that pretty much killed 1/3 of the population.
Yeah.
So
Ant's just made a great point. I want to throw this in there too before I lose it. But when it pertains to these snake oil peddlers, let's just call them,
Right.
of this, they always want you to feel like the end is near, because
Mhm.
if you do, you're more apt to spend what you have than hoard it. Think about it,
Right.
right? End's near. Well, I'm going to go get 240 days of survival food and the hell with paying my bills. Ha ha. Or something to that effect. I've heard that a lot.
Right.
I just wanted
because-
to throw that in there.
No, that's a very good point, because there a lot of these people think, well, hey, the end's near anyways. I might as well just blow all my cash on
Right. So just
prepping
remember
and all
that.
this
And
stuff.
there's
So,
always been, like Scotty was saying, throughout history, you'll find many a times when the end was coming. There. What was the name of that pastor in the 19th century that thought Jesus was coming back? Got all clothed up in white, got on the hill, had all his followers.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I can't remember his name.
Not Mennonite. No.
Millerites.
The Millerites. Yes, the Millerites.
The Millerites, right?
So the Millerites, that was kind of, 19th century-esque, 1840s, 1850s, right? End of the world's coming. This guy had it calculated, and everybody sold everything they had. They knew Jesus was coming back. They all come up on this hill. They're all bathed. They're clothed in white. Nothing happens. I mean,
Just
these
imagine
people
if you
gave
gave
away
old,
the
if you
sport,
gave old
man.
Pastor, just imagine if you gave old Pastor Miller access to YouTube back then. He'd be,
Oh,
he'd
dude,
be
could you
top
imagine?
grifter,
Yeah,
top grifter boy.
And there's many of them, but that was a good
Mhm.
one. That was one of the
Mhm.
better, because if you think about it, the Great Disappointment, it was called, and very much so, because it's all driven by people who they take advantage of that fear.
Mhm.
And not to mention, I'm sure he had no intention of deceiving these people. But you got to have a humble heart whenever you dive into that stuff, or you're never, ever going to get the whole complete truth, the story, and you're never going to be able to see what's coming truly, because that's the only way you're going to be able to do that, is if you're not clouded at all. And to do that is very, very, I wouldn't say difficult. It just, it takes a lot of practice. Takes a lot of practice. So I would say that those that are kind of on the Doomsday Express, it's not all doomsday, and it shouldn't be. These events are going to happen. It's been foretold. Okay, we're here. That's great. But is it the end? No, I don't think so. Now, funny enough, when you do look into it, right, there's evidence all around us that was built into structures, even, that tell us that story. One of them was the Great Pyramid and the Giza Plateau. That was, funny enough, people are told all the time, oh yes, well, it was Khufu that built that pyramid, I tell you, it was Khufu. Khufu never built the pyramid. And the Sphinx wasn't always the Sphinx. And we see this happen all the time and throughout history, where people go and assume identities, or cultures assume identities, or alter things, because now that power, the power structure, needs to, in order to maintain or boost their power, to make it more pronounced. I'm a god, so here it is. This is mine. I built this.
That goes back to the whole, when you said how they repurposed the statue.
Yeah,
and it went from Jupiter to Peter, right?
Same thing. Same thing. We're going to repurpose that. Dadgummit, that's a nice statue. I'd hate to see that go. Yeah, that looked good over there in St. Peter's Cathedral right there. We'll just call him Peter. How's that? That's good. Yeah, thanks. Thanks very much. No, yeah, you're right. So, I just hope, gosh, it just bothers me that so many people fall for it. The stela for the Sphinx, the inventory stela, you can't see to this day. It's covered up. And it's covered up for a good reason. It's covered up because if anybody were to see what was on that stela, it would be nothing Egyptian. As a matter of fact, it's said that inside the Sphinx, and everybody knows, that the Hall of Records. And that's where Enoch stored the knowledge that he got when he went up and was the intermediary between God and the giants and the Nephilim and the fallen, and through all that, he got this knowledge, and he was also told to make and build a pillar, a promise. That's in Hebrew. Pillar is like a promise or a monument. And so he did, and it was the Great Pyramid. And that Great Pyramid is built with dimensions. The dimensions of it and the way it was built tell a story. And it tells you the story of the end. And over time, it's been vandalized. It's been, like, for example, the encasing stones that made it shine like a diamond, even from space. Up until the 19th century, they were all taken, and a lot of the mosques in the community were built with those.
Yeah, all of the outside stones.
144,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 144,000 encasing stones. And of course, if you look at the prophecy, it talks about 144,000 of God's chosen people that are on the earth at the time he returns. And so you can go through and see all in its dimensions, its geometry, all of these things that are built into it. That was just one of many, But you think about that. Wow. There's like 9 billion people on the planet right now. 144,000, you say. That's pretty crappy, man. I mean, you're talking like, oof. Yeah. Now, what does that mean? That could mean two things. It could mean more than two things, but this is how I see it. It could be so bad that truly there's only 144,000 of like people that have it. Right. I don't know. I just believers. Let's just say believers. And that would be just cataclysmic if you look at it from like, wow. Or it could be like, how many people actually truly do get it? And of those people, 144,000. Maybe. And everybody else is just going about doing their thing, living life. What?
It could be people who were infected by the jab.
Oh, yeah. It could be people infected by who got the gene therapy. I don't know. You just don't know. So, but I guess we could say one thing. Man, it's going to be, I got to imagine it's not going to be fun around that time. And I could be totally wrong. See, that's the problem. Right. But one thing I do know is that you look at prophecy and you read it and you say, wow, all of this stuff has come to pass. We don't have much left to go. So, and now we've got this AI thing that everybody's going to for all their answers. All those prayers are now going to the AI. And as time goes on and the emergence of general intelligence comes out, it starts to take hold and people have instant access to that type of instant knowledge, if you will. Damn. It's like, oof. Then I would say we're really close at that point. That's kind of the markers I'm looking at.
And then here's the question: Are we just repeating the same cycle that the Atlanteans or the antediluvian age, went
or
through
whatever,
yeah, and then we just start over again. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the end. It could just mean, hey,
it's the new beginning. No, you're absolutely right.
Right.
So funny enough, a lot of people focus on that, on the up to that event, right? But then it also talks about 1,000 years, right? And basically, the story goes that there's a resurrection and that those that are resurrected or are translated at that time go up to heaven for 1,000 years. And then after 1,000 years, so they're up there, everything else gets destroyed. And the earth is basically dead, barren for 1,000 years. It's got to sit. Almost like a Sabbath, if you will. So on the seventh day, God rests. And you'll see that. So during the week, there's always the seventh day. The Sabbath, you don't do anything like that. You don't work. You take a break. Well, Earth needs the same thing. Funny enough, it looks to be about a 6,000-year cycle. Then the Earth gets destroyed, and for 1,000 years, it's got to sit. And then, here we go again. So after 1,000 years, New Jerusalem comes down from heaven. Whee! Here it comes on Earth. And we're supposed to reign, and it's supposed to be the golden age. And New Jerusalem, if you look at the dimensions in the Bible, it could be either a cube or a pyramid.
Right, I was gonna say it's like the pyramid, but scaled up into like 1,000-something miles or something.
It's like the size of Oregon.
Right, it's like
what it ends up being, but a pyramid the size of Oregon. That's pretty big.
That's a big mothership, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So just, and then, Bill, we were talking to Bill earlier before the show, and he was talking about the 2024, one of the funding bills that are passing now through the Senate, and how in that bill there's a huge amount of language about disclosure.
The UAPs and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and not so much from the Army. I guess the military stonewalling. Everybody's stonewalling, the information requests in Congress. So Congress is trying to do an end round around the military, and they're asking any contractors, any former federal employees, any current employees that want to step forward, or actually they're compelling them to step forward. It's not really a, oh, come on, pretty please. It's like, you will, within 60 days, disclose everything you know and transfer everything you have that is of non-Earth origin or whatever.
If there's something that congressmen and women and senators don't like, they don't like being kept in the dark about stuff.
Well, what I find very interesting is they would have had to seen something in their investigations up to now to be able to say in a bill that you will non-Earth origin. That it's like, now you just don't say that on a hunch. You saw something, didn't you?
They've seen some stuff that are making them go, what?
Yeah, so obviously enough was seen for them to feel it necessary to compel people to start to come forward. Which, okay, so if that's going to happen, then you start getting, I'm telling you, man, childhood end. I can't get it out of my damn head. If anybody, let me tell you something. If anybody can go, I'm going to go see where you can see that. Oh, dear. What a mini series. You got to see it. So the thing about that was the ending is very, very, very bad. It was really bad. But what do you say? It looks like Amazon Prime has it. I'm checking it out now. Yeah, you can see it on Amazon Prime. So, oh yeah, right. Yeah, that's true. So, a lot of people think Arthur C. Clarke was in the know about a lot of things, and I'm sure he was to some extent. Much like your Aldous Huxley's.
He was one of those futurists that was privy to a lot of the information where he could
they all talk.
make a pretty good projection of like the direction we were going in the future.
Very much so. And so they were very pivotal to that, like an Isaac Asimov. Man, you could talk. There's so many of them. All I can say is that series was pretty. If there was disclosure of some sort, like an event, that's how I would see it happening. Something along that line. You know what I mean? Because if you think about it, an alien race or whatever that has the ability to get here, we can't get to Mars or even have a moon base because of the radiation. It'll just eat you alive, you know. So we can't even achieve that or any sort of way to travel, fold space, walk through stargates. I'm sure we can, but I mean, it's just not out there yet. If these guys show up or this race shows up or whatever, first of all, they're going to be much more advanced than we are. And there's probably not much we can do about it. And it would really not be to their benefit to just go and destroy the whole human race. I just don't see that. It just doesn't seem logical to me. It could, but, you know, I don't know.
I think the whole point of them even deciding to interact with us or show up to begin with would imply that there's a reason that we're useful to them at some level, right?
That's
or
right.
they wouldn't even be interacting with us to begin with.
Well, then you look at like the Anunnaki, and you look at all of those in ancient history and texts, the Sumerians, and there's a level of truth to all that. And I truly believe it. The reptilians, they didn't exist. Baloney, man. Of course they did. Like I said, elves, dwarves, halflings, giants, orcs, goblins. It doesn't matter what you call them, but there were non-humans that lived here pre-flood. There was genetic manipulation that was going on. All of the things that went on pre-flood happened, and the earth was destroyed. We were reset. And this inclination, this iteration of man is a lot weaker, a lot less beefy than the last iteration of man. A lot of people think the Neanderthals were like cavemen and things like that. No, humans used to live for 1,000 years. And when you live for 1,000 years, things like brow bones don't ever stop growing. You know, you look at the teeth. The teeth were good for 1,000 years. They had really strong teeth, strong bones, strong structures. They were taller. They were faster. You know, there were different species, and you know, some were human looking that had double rows of teeth, 6 fingers, 6 toes, all sorts of different stuff. And each time it resets, it gets worse and worse. Look at what's going on with like DNA and the falling fertility rates in men and women. They're falling. Sperm counts are going down. What did they say? I think it's like 50% of what it was in 1970 something. Something cosmically bad. You don't think that they aren't banking on having to start to come up with a new process to keep things going? Of course they do. And it just came out. I think it was a synthetic embryo that they've just. I
we start getting into the whole test tube babies and assembly line.
What I'm saying is like it was a yeah. Right here, the Guardian just put it out, and it says an exclusive breakthrough. Scientists have created synthetic human embryos using stem cells in a groundbreaking advance that sidesteps the need for eggs and sperm.
Wow.
That's right. It says science say these model embryos, which resemble those in the earliest stages of human development, could provide a crucial window on the impact of genetic disorders and the biological causes of recurrent miscarriage. Now think about that for a second. There was was it the Black Mirror, that series where people had the discs in the back of their spine?
I think it might have been.
Their consciousness would be transferred from body to body. So if you had money,
it definitely sounds like a Black Mirror sort of situation.
So if you had money, right, you could, and you died, you had like an insurance policy, right? And that stack was called a stack. Your stack would be put into a new body. Well, if you didn't have money, you just got whatever was on the pile. So if you were a young kid, you died, you could have got an old man's body afterwards, you know, and you're still that same person in consciousness and everything. But now people have to deal with the fact that an 8-year-old, or what you once knew as an 8-year-old, now is in a 73-year-old man. You know, so it's
wild.
It's weird.
Yeah.
But you could definitely see something like that coming to pass, or machinations of it, if they can grow bodies, you know. And then I guess,
look at the advancements we already got, where they're able to 3D print organs, right? They can 3D print like a liver or 3D print, a lung or something. So we're already in that stage to where it's like, hey, you got bad lungs. We'll just take some of your stem cells, pop it in the 3D printer over here. You can come back, in about a week after it's done growing in the lab, and we'll just throw that in. You don't have to worry about organ rejection or anything like that, because it's grown from your own stem cells. And that's when we start getting into the whole, like, how long can you keep the meat suit alive by just replacing parts?
Yeah, for people like Schmeagol, David Rockefeller, it didn't work that bad. His body liquefied by the time he died, and Henry Kissinger's not far behind him, So that, maybe they do figure something out like that. I don't know if we even get that far. I really don't care. Here's one thing I do know, and I'll leave it at that. Then we'll get on to some different stuff. Those that think they have the answers as far as where to go, where you're going to be safe in a cataclysm and everything like that, you don't know. These people don't know. As much research that goes into it, there's no amount of research that you can do to prepare for something like the biblical reset, if you will. It is only by the grace of the Almighty that anybody makes it. And even then, you'll probably wish you didn't. So it's not exactly something that I would put a lot of faith in anybody that says, well, yes, if you go here, then you're going to be safe. A lot of people run to the Ozarks. How the hell do you know that that's going to be okay? Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It's all fun and games in the Ozarks until the New Madrid fault pops
Until the
off.
New Madrid fault goes. Yeah, woo! And then, think about it, too. I was thinking about, we used to make fun of the nuke industry because of how they put all their plants on fault lines. But I kind of figured out why that was. Because you think about it, in a cataclysm, and wouldn't you want that nuke thing on a fault line? That way it just opens up and swallows it. Like, oof, gone. Okay, well, it's buried. Whew, done. I don't know.
Because in the grand scheme
were they that
things,
dumb thinking about that?
No, think about it. In the grand scheme of things, was
that a clue?
A nuke core melting down really has nothing on the amount of magma, under the crust of the planet, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, so
you might as well just have the thing fall in and crater in on itself and whatever.
Anybody out there, just go ahead and do a quick search in your time about Ozarks and bunkers or the rich. So in the Ozarks, there's a bank for every 80 people. And I guarantee you do any sort of research into how much population density in, like, say, New York City, and how many banks there are per the population, it's not going to be 1 in 80. So,
right.
And then you look at some of these caves and survival mansion structure things, castles, and, just like the Bible,
a lot of the rich and the elite have invested.
Yeah, a lot of money. There's a lot of money and time that went into that, and people just don't do that. There's a reason why they've done that. So in the Bible, like, it speaks like the Catholic Church, right? About don't chant like the heathen, blah blah blah. Don't take the evergreen out of the forest, put silver and gold on it, put the balls. Don't do that. Don't do that. So okay. So just like that, it also says about those that are all the kings of the earth are going to be crying for mommy and everything else when the end comes, wishing that the rocks would fall on them and crush them dead. They are going to be so damn afraid, and it's not going to do them a bit of good. So that's why I'm saying you can dig a hole as deep as you want. You can have the nicest survival thing, all you want. And then you die of a heart attack before it all happens.
Don't prepare well, I mean, prepare. It's always good to be prepared.
Sure.
But don't
hurricane.
don't focus your preparation physically. Focus your preparation spiritually. That's the advice I would give. Because if you're prepared spiritually,
that's where everybody should be focusing on at this point.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Absolutely. Don't worry about the other stuff. It will come.
Yep, exactly.
Right. So he turns around and going to Belarus. And it is one heck of a story, man. And you look at that past 24 hours, and I mean, I can't imagine there are many jaws that were left that weren't just to the floor about what happened. And the only thing I could say there is theater is done for many reasons. Propaganda happens for many reasons. And I truly believe, just from the history there too, with how people like this are treated, this is not something that I would consider anything like it was going to happen. You know, this was theater. And it was, I think, to shore up Russian support for the war, because they just don't have it. And the wheels are starting to fall off over there. So that's bad. And then, of course, I think they were talking about the digital currencies coming out. The Federal Reserve is going to be launching their new Fed Now site, where these digital dollars are not going to be used for you and me. Oh, no, not yet. But they are going to be used interbank. So there's a measure of control that comes with that. And they know this. So there's some signs that Michael Snyder came out with. He said 8 signs that the futuristic control freak agenda of the globalists is rapidly moving forward. It is. It says starting in September, the EU will mandate that all member states offer a digital identity wallet to all their citizens and businesses. So typically Europe and the UK they always paved the way with the surveillance state. They're always like 2 or 3 steps ahead. You remember, Scotty, we used to make fun of Kev because of the cameras back in his mall cop era. Mm-hmm. And how there's 500 security cameras. There's one in your bathroom. Because they all went around like...
Yeah, the UK is just like CCTV central, right?
There's
CCTV everywhere.
It's just the way of life over there. And it's integrated. And everybody goes about their life. Even here, we do too. It was implemented in a soft fashion. And over time, more and more cameras came out. And then red light cameras came out. And then the what do they call that? Shot sound system or whatever it is that picks up the gunshots and triangulates it.
But in typical American fashion, they got us to invest in it ourselves. I mean, look at how many people and willingly invest in buying Ring home cameras for their home.
Oh yeah,
and install all this surveillance stuff on their own.
That's right.
Where's it calling back to? Where are those images being fed back to? Amazon data center somewhere, right? Because Amazon owns Ring, and so. Of course, it's not the state that has to really implement it. They just get us to willingly opt into it ourselves. That's just right. That's the way they do it here in the U.S.
Did all that too.
Right, exactly.
I mean, that's it. Everybody, when you talk about, that's why Elon calls everybody a cyborg already. Because everybody is. I mean, you got your phone. They're all attached to us in one way, shape, or form. A lot of people's lives are and livelihoods are all done on their phone. It's crazy. So, I mean, it's serious when it comes to that. Then you got Obama out there, and he's really concerned about, and so am I for that matter, about what they said, misinformation, disinformation, and deepfakes. Now, probably not for the same reasons that they are, but yes,
Right.
I have a big problem with that, because how are you going to know what's real and what's not? And so what he's saying is there needs to be some sort of development of a digital fingerprint to combat what he says is misinformation and distinguish between true and misleading news for consumers. So who decides that? That's the problem, right?
Right.
Then you have number 3, a UN policy brief that you can find out there is proposing a global system of digital identification that is linked to our bank accounts. And so this digital ID linked with bank or mobile money accounts can improve the delivery of social protection coverage and serve to better reach eligible beneficiaries. Digital technologies may help to reduce leakage, errors, and cost in the designs of social protection programs. So what they're saying is, and you'll see a lot of this too, Scotty, with the what do they call that? The universal income, basic universal income. But they're also talking benefits. More and more people are going to be phased out when it comes to sectors of the workforce. As AI becomes more entrenched, automation becomes more the norm. And that's because, at least here in the United States, but also in other first world and even second world countries, you can't compete with slave labor. You just can't do it. You can't do it cheap enough. And because of that, manufacturing and services suffer terribly in these countries because you can't compete with foreign slave labor, a la China, and even in some cases India. India more so just because their currency is has been very, let's just say, depressed for a long time, and now they're emerging to be a leader in the world. And so you can't compete with that. More and more people are going to be pushed onto some sort of beneficiary thing, and that would all come about, I think. You're looking at like 15-minute cities. So that's something else we can get into. It's almost like America 2050, where people are basically assigned where to live, what to do, what you're going to have, all this stuff. And then
they want you to have all the necessities within, like, what would you say, like a 15-minute
15
radius?
minute, correct. 15-minute radius. Yeah. So these things can happen, and we're on the path to do that. But is it going to happen as a rollout, as a national thing, or is it going to be more of a global thing? That's what remains to be seen. You see all like the World Bank and
I think it's going to be more of a global thing, because then when it's a global thing, it forces nations to adhere to it, because they're like, well, if we're going to be a global player in this global economy, and if we're going to, we've got to adhere to the standards of the global system, and so we need to implement these things within our own country in order to stay competitive in the global market, so if you try to do it just on a country basis, you get a lot more pushback from the population. But if it's like this thing where, well, we got to be part, this will enable us to stay relevant on the global stage. We have to do these things, right?
That's right.
And so that's why you see a lot of this happening on a global level, and
everywhere too. And it's being pushed now. It's being pushed. It is a world fascist type of system, where you have these government entities that are promulgating this policy, and then it's being pushed out on the private sector at the business level. So these powerful corporations that have been allowed to merge and consolidate now wield tremendous global power, and the rules don't apply to them. They're actually protected. The Citizens United decision of the Supreme Court was devastating to us. And that's why you have ESG now. It really came down from that ruling, and it had nothing to do with ESG. It had everything to do with corporations are people, and people are corporations. We got to go to break, but I want to say this, kgradb.com. Go there, check it out. If you want to go to a great event, June 30th to July 2nd, Roswell Convention Center and Civic Center in Roswell, New Mexico, the KGRADB crew is going to be there representing. So get your tickets online. You can go to our website and check it out. We'll be right back for hour number 2. Don't go away.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake kickstarts your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm gonna take it for the energy, I'm gonna take it for the play, I'm gonna take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing, it works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a feel the difference money back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
So it's hour number 2 of the Freedom Link. Scotty Lopez, Joseph here, and it's wow. So Elon Musk and and the Zuck apparently has decided to ditch his geek image and go full blown Thunderdome, and do so in a very calm ninja like way, like very zen, you know? Whereas Elon is exactly consistent, like all the time. He is, I love that guy. I don't care what anybody says. So yeah, like he said, he'd do the walrus. His kill move is the walrus, where he just falls on him and crushes him. So yeah, I mean, let me tell you something. This is ridiculous, only because they're billionaires, and I could see a cage match. Elon seems to be the one that is the most, as far as advancing the truth as much as possible, or the least amount of corruption, whatever it is you want to call it. He seems to be the one wired the most to push back against an established power structure.
Right. He's not really part of the club that a lot of other billionaires are part of. He's
like, you never seen a Bilderberg.
He's very much an outsider,
there, right?
Yeah. Like I said, he's very much an outsider. So he's a wild card, and they don't know how to handle that, right?
So I
this
just
whole
right. So
cracks
do
me
you
up.
think it's really going to happen? Because they were talking like it could pull in $1 billion for pay-per-view or something like ungodly
Dana
amount.
White. Yeah, Dana White said, hey, we could charge $100 a ticket. It'll be the biggest pay-per-view event ever.
Would it though?
Yeah, I think a lot of people would pay to see two billionaires like go at it in a cage match. I mean, look, of course they would. Look at society right now. Of course we would tune into a billionaire blood sport event.
So what happens when the one person loses? See, here's the thing. Okay, so you go in there. What's the stakes? What's the stakes? Let's make it true Thunderdome, right? Whereas if I win, I get the papers to your stuff. If you win, you get the papers to my stuff.
Yeah, there needs to be some real stakes.
Now
like
you're talking. Like, okay,
if
you
I
guys just get
win,
to a match, whatever.
You hand over the company, right? That's
right, or something like that. I get control for X amount of time.
Now that,
and
would
then
be
if I was
really
Musk,
cool.
I would be like, because in a cage match, who gives a crap, dude? It's no holds barred. Just
right? So
go in and frickin' just destroy him, put him on a pike, and
So here's the question. Okay, so we have the Zuck. He's been training in jiu-jitsu for quite a while, right? He's been getting all jacked up and he's shedding his soy boy thing. He's trying to become Giga Chad or whatever. What does Elon do? Are we talking about like the jujitsu warrior versus the guy who jacked his brain into the Matrix and is like, I know kung fu? Did Elon? What does Elon have up his sleeve? Right,
dude, he's got to have like a freaking cyborg. He's got to have something like he'll turn into a mech warrior or something like that.
I saw a
that's
hilarious.
What I'm thinking.
Speaking of AI, I saw a hilarious meme that somebody made with AI, and they had Zuckerberg looking like Reptile from Mortal Kombat, and they had Elon looking like Cyrax, right? One of the cyborg ninjas, and it was like, yeah. So I was like, that's great.
See, this is the beauty of AI is it's creativity. Sometimes it really comes up with some weird stuff. I don't know if they do it, like I said, without any sort of stakes in it. I can't see a lot of people paying for it. Everybody's broke. So, I mean, it's kind of like, okay, $100, really? I'm going to pay for that? For what? It'll be on the internet 20 minutes later.
It's crazy. Everyone's broke, but they still, whatever little money they have, they still spend it on things that they shouldn't really be spending it on, right?
And why is that? Why is that? Here's an activist post. American housing crisis? Says 40% think they need to win the lottery to buy a home. And it's true, because builders don't make money on small houses anymore, on affordable housing. That's why you see them building nothing but big, what they call McMansions. And
right.
They don't make the small houses. In the 70s, the 60s, the 50s, you had 3-bedroom, 1 bath. There was no frills. And they made a lot of them. Builders don't make money on those houses anymore because of the skyrocketing costs of labor and materials. in order for them to make money, they have to have all these bells and whistles that they can upcharge to really, really make a profit. So now when the average house price in America is like $350,000, who the hell can afford that? When BlackRock is buying up all of the housing and jacking up the prices, if you actually took all those investment companies and foreign governments from buying up all the housing, I would wager to say we would probably have a very different picture of the housing market in America, but we don't. And it says 1 in 4, 26% believe they need to inherit money from someone in order to ever own a home. 1 in 5 even believe they'd have to marry someone rich. It says overall, the average American thinks it would take them between 3 and 4 years to afford a home, and a third believe it would take them 5 years or more. Another 20% expect they'll never be able to afford one. It was a poll conducted on behalf of Divvy Homes. The survey also revealed that almost 6 in 10 non-homeowners would find it difficult to afford a house in the current neighborhood they live. Despite that, 67% are still hopeful about the possibility of one day owning a home. More than 5 times as many as the number of people who actively describe themselves as hopeless. Another 19% described themselves as frustrated, and 11% felt desperate. And
right, because if you don't if you don't have, if you didn't inherit some property or have somebody in your family that owns some property or something that you can move on to or anything, it's tough to just go out there and try to buy a home or something, and so yeah, I mean the current situation does not look very good for anybody who wants to buy a home. It's just not happening, man.
Yeah, potential buyers are looking for alternative to traditional mortgage financing, or are stuck waiting for a reprieve from the rising rates and prices that keep so many of them renting and locked out of home ownership. There are so many factors. This is Adina Heffitz, the CEO of Divvy Homes. Says there are so many factors put downward pressure on potential home buyers' buying power: high interest rates, a lack of supply, increased cost of living, that the starter home seems to be on the verge of extinction. And if you think about it, it is because they don't build them. They just don't. So what is a starter home? You couldn't even define that these days. That's the problem. So,
right.
Something's got to change. AP had an article about this veterinarian, right? And this is in California. And the homeless crisis in California is so bad that I think they said a third of the U.S. homeless population actually live in California. Why? Well, because when it's sunny and 70 year round, it makes it a little bit easier to live outdoors. If you're not dealing with extreme heat or you're not dealing with extreme cold, you've got a much more temperate climate. You also have a much more liberal environment. So as a result, you have more of that population there. If I was homeless, I'd probably go to California because sunny and 70. It's simple. But they're talking about a veterinarian, and he goes and gives 1 day a week. He goes and does veterinary services for all the homeless people. And he says about 2/3 of the California homeless population is unsheltered, meaning they live outside, often packed in encampments in major cities along roadways. Nationally, up to 10% of those homeless have pets. And that's based on an estimate from the Pets of the Homeless advocacy group. And homeless shelters often don't allow for pets. And that makes people have to make some pretty tough decisions, or go to California so their dog or cat doesn't freeze or whatever it is. But it's so bad that they don't know what to do with all these homeless people. It's like, and there's not, these aren't bad people. I mean, a lot of them have issues, but for the most part, if you think about housing crises, cost of living.
Right. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, it doesn't take much for you to all of a sudden end up under a bridge somewhere.
Oh, no, man. No way. No way, no how. Right. I tell you what.
Mm-hmm.
So I can totally get it and understand it. There's a push now for tiny homes. You know, we used to talk about America 2050 and how they were trying to put people in like a 400 square foot apartment, a family of 4. And that's what you would live in and everything else. And okay, well, now it's becoming reality because people have no other choice. So I looked at this article. This lady, she was married for 18 years, got a divorce, and she ended up buying a tiny home, 560 square feet, decent size, you know, just her living in it. And it was a feel-good story about, you know, well, I makes you appreciate what you have because you have to pare down. You don't have all this space, but you end up being very efficient with everything, and it brings a lot of healthy habits. So whatever, there was that. But $175,000 she paid for this thing. $175,000 for a tiny home. I mean, dude, $175,000 for a tiny. And then she has to park it in a friend's backyard. That's where she lives, in a friend's backyard. Okay, great, but $175,000 for a 560 square foot tiny home?
I thought the whole point of a tiny home and shrinking down was to reduce cost, right?
Where did she live before? How is that like? Whoa! Damn!
It's because
I mean, you could have knocked me over with a leaf. $175,000? No way, dude.
Because right now, the whole tiny home thing is a niche market of sort of enthusiast sort of people who, you know what I mean? And I don't know.
Let me say this. The RV industry right now is in shambles. If you look at Winnebago stock and you look at what's the other one? Airstream. They're doing terrible. And it's because about a year ago, recreational vehicle market just started to go south and it's just collapsed. So if you're in the RV market right now, it's a heck of a time to buy. So they say. Because nobody has any money. So there's that. More people are opting to fly now. I don't know why, but they are. And what?
Because the homeless population is expanding. They're cramping down on RV laws and stuff like that.
Oh, right. Well, that's the other thing. That's right, too. So because of the homeless situation, they're clamping down on all the RV laws, where you can park, where you can do this, where you can do that. So, probably not a good idea, because then I got to go find me a mobile home park to park, or you got to go to find like a campground or something like that. They're like, even Walmart. Walmart was one of those places, and still to this day, you can in most. You can go and park there. If you have an RV, you can park there, but you got no services. You know, so it's like, you better run your generator, or you better have enough water on there, so a lot of complications have arisen because of that. Another thing is, because of the shortfalls of state budgets, they are now taxing recreational vehicles much heavier, especially in the Northeast. Your excise tax, oh geez, man, why would you even want to buy one of those? Because excise tax is just so oppressive. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. needless to say, 175 grand, that should get you like that Meet the Fockers bus that that they were on, dude. That's like exquisite style. I got to imagine you can get something a little more affordable. I would hope.
Hey, that'll almost get you a trip to the Titanic.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't want to go to see the Titanic. The Titanic sunk. People, just let the people rest. Can't we just do that? Do we need to go down there and bother the dead? I mean, they're not really doing anything down there, but come on. It's like all these people that dig up these cemeteries well, it's an archaeological dig, you see. No, it's a graveyard, and you're digging it up, and good luck to you in the future. Ugh. I don't know.
Speaking of a distraction and whatnot, wow, that whole thing was
what is that? And think about it. You're telling me people don't know around the world that the United States has the capability to hear anything in the water at any distance and know exactly where it is at any given time? Come on.
So I mean, from what I'm hearing, because I know that there's a lot of rumblings going around.
Don't even bring Sasquatch into this.
No, not yet. That they knew from the get-go that this thing imploded, but they let this whole thing play out to kind of overshadow the whole Hunter Biden trial.
Of course. Come on. Mockingbird Media, come on.
Right. So, never let a good crisis go to waste.
Amen to that, brother. Yeah, and so, you're spot on there. Absolutely. They let that string out. Look at all the assets that went over there where they were looking.
Right.
Terrible. Absolutely terrible.
What a waste.
I mean, corruption knows no bounds. This is why I say, just give it time. And second of all, be careful what you wish for, because any sort of societal collapse is going to be painful for everybody. Very painful. And as I said, there's no amount of preparation that you can truly have short of your own security detail, and like a fortified fortress. And then, even then, you get enough people, they'll overcome it. So it's, I really, bug out bag, things like that. Good. Yeah. Very good. Good. Unless you're in a position to hunker down for, like, you're in an extreme rural area or something of that nature, forget about it. If you're in a population center, bug out bag is all you need, because and chances are you probably ain't gonna make it. But if you're lucky enough to, that's what I would do.
That's why I'm glad. That's why I'm glad I live in Kansas.
Yeah. You the groundhogs, you'd be just fine.
Yeah,
those prairie dogs. The prairie dogs out there. Yeah.
Yep.
16.5 million Americans are at risk of stroke from exercising too hard in a recent study. That was another thing that they're exercising so damn hard. You're going to give yourself a stroke.
I'm sure that has nothing to do with, your heart just suddenly failing for some reason.
It couldn't be, maybe a change to your circulatory system due to some gene therapy. Perhaps. Couldn't be because of the enormous stress Americans are under now because of,
right.
Well, I mean, just look at it. Do you need... This is the problem I have. This is that Mockingbird Media crap that I keep. 16.5 million Americans are exercising so hard they're giving themselves a stroke. No, that's not what's happening. People are having a stroke. They're trying to keep their mind off of crap, so they're exercising, right? Because once they're done exercising, they've got to go back to reality, and it's bad. And so in the midst of trying to do that, but the root cause isn't the exercise. The root cause is the freaking hell, the hellacious existence that everybody's got to live with now, the absolute overload of input. You know, you go to work now. It's not like it used to be where you go to work and you leave and you do your job and that's what you do. You go to work now and, oh, yeah, that's your job, but we need you to do this too. Oh, and that and that and this and that and that and this and that. And by the way, you also need to know the 542 different regulations that have to do with that, because if you violate that, well, then there's this code of ethics thing and, oh, sexual harassment. You got to make sure you're good. And all these other things, people are just like, there's not enough time in a day. And then, you know, and then you get the, oh, yes, well, work-life balance is very important to us. Oh, really? It is? Yeah. And then, of course, you short circuit because reality isn't what you're hearing. What you're seeing is totally different than what you're hearing. And, of course, you have a stroke and you die. But it's not because you exercise too hard.
You know, and then they wonder why there's these mass casualty incidents that sometimes occur at workplaces as well. You know, so you got that too of just people just kind of snapping, right? And
dude, what about that dad that shot his kids? The 3 sons? Did you see that in Ohio?
No.
Oh man, yeah, Ohio, Indiana. Hold on, I got to find it. So the DA is seeking the death penalty on this. It was so egregious. Yeah, right here. This is One American News. Prosecutors seek death penalty for Ohio man who's accused of executing his 3 young sons. They were 3, 4, and 7. And of course, he copped to it. I mean, he just did it out in his front yard. Chad Christopher Dorman appeared in a court for his arraignment and pleaded not guilty to 9 counts of aggravated murder, 8 counts of kidnapping, 4 counts of felonious assault. He was ordered to be held without bond in a case that the prosecutor said is, quote, one of the most monstrous, craven, cowardly acts that has ever been my misfortune of seeing. Numerous other specifications were also included in the filings that make him eligible for the death penalty. Prosecutors allege that Dorman had lined up his sons, who were 3, 4, and 7 years old, and proceeded to execute them with a rifle. The mother of the child had tried to wrest the gun away from Dorman, but was shot in the hand. And so the prosecutor said that one of the victims had managed to run away to another property, but Dorman had chased down his son and, quote, drug him back to the property and executed him in front of the witnesses.
Wow. That is crazy. What
Prosecutor said Dorman had, quote, ripped the 3-year-old from his mother's arms and put a bullet in his head. So the mother of the victims had called 911 crying out that her babies had been shot. And was heard on body footage camera yelling that he took my life from me, my life. So the only one to survive is the oldest sister, Alexis. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine having to. I mean, this is one of those things, once it's been seen, you can't unsee it. It's just evil on such a level. And it makes you wonder what drives a person to do something like that. Right. However, we are in a time when all of these things are, you don't know what drove this man to do that, but I can tell you some societal input was probably there and present in some way, shape, or form that drove him to that. No one knows, but people are snapping all over the place. Excess deaths are on the rise. So there's a lot of crazy crap going on right now that I think is going to culminate in enough of the world being so disheveled that okay, guys, let's come together and let's reset. And you see the Great Reset being talked about. I think the Ukraine-Russia thing is all part of that Great Reset plan. I think what you saw yesterday and what unfolded today and yesterday with the Wagner Group is all part of that.
Well, look, they know that the current system is untenable. It can't be sustained.
It's dying. Yeah.
Right. And they're trying to get out ahead of it and figure out a way of, well, resetting everything.
They've looted and plundered the current system and concentrated the wealth so much in the top 1% that there's literally nothing left. Nothing left for anybody. And think about this, the money supply. They printed so much money. The economy now is teetering. It's terrible. You got inflation, everything else. And the Fed still has to somehow, some way, unwind all that quantitative easing. You're never going to unwind that. Not without collapsing everything. And they know this. They've went and plundered everything they can. So now they need this great reset. The only problem is it isn't going to reset anything that has to do with what is going on with you now. And it also brings about things like social credit and the scores, all the things they beta test in China. You don't think that's coming to a country near you, and a state, and a city, and a town?
It's a great reset for them to be able to restart the looting and plundering from a fresh slate.
Yeah, only they'll have a control structure in place that is so much more robust with AI that I kind of equate it to Tron in a lot of ways, you know? I do, like the original Tron, you know?
Right.
Where the central computer controlled everything. But yeah, James Rickards, he agreed on Zero Hedge. He wrote, yes, it can happen here. And he says, I warned that they would allow governments to monitor every transaction you make, which basically means a surveillance state. And this facilitates the creation of a social credit system, and that allows governments to punish those who engage in unapproved activities, such as buying guns and donating money to the wrong political party, buying unapproved literature. The government will even know your physical whereabouts at the point of purchase. And people could be denied employment opportunities and educational opportunities, access to the banking system, even the ability to travel. It also said that China's well along the way to establishing that social credit system. And if you have any doubt of the Chinese and the fact that it's real, he says, consider this. Millions of Chinese have been denied the ability to travel by plane or train because of their social credit scores being too low. And it can happen here, especially as more and more people become more desperate and more reliant on government funding, meaning like benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And they can start tying a lot of these things to benefits, like we were talking about earlier, about having the digital wallet. If you get benefits, you need a digital wallet because it will help us streamline and less errors and all this. And of course, it's all going to sound great, but really that's not what it's about. And this is why you don't want to be on benefits.
Because now, this Fed Now thing is going to be the middleman between you and your bank, pretty much. And they're going to know everything about all the purchases you make. And, hey, if you've been a bad boy or bad girl, all of a sudden,
that's right,
your transaction's not going to go through, right? And you're going to lose access to your bank account or your money or whatever. So,
all I can say is that can most certainly happen here. Don't think for a second it won't. Those are all being beta tested, and there have been beta tests here. Think about the policies that they enacted during the COVID lockdowns. Think of the censorship and the vaccine mandates. Oops, did I say that? I did. All of these things happened here. They all happened here. And if it were before the pandemic, a lot of people wouldn't have thought any of that was possible.
I was going to say, it was a wonderful beta test for them to run to see how much the public would accept.
Look, they didn't.
Yeah.
They really didn't. I mean, to begin with, they did, but not enough, not near enough. Yeah, what was it, like 50% maybe? Right. That's bad. That's real bad. So yeah, I guess it was an eye opener for them. Rickards writes, before the pandemic, you probably wouldn't have thought everything that was possible, but it all happened. And it might not be as extreme as China's system. It all may sound very benign, he says, even necessary to support our democracy against those MAGA types, those white supremacists, and the climate deniers, and those pesky domestic terrorists. And even Ronald Reagan said, if fascism ever comes to America, it comes in the name of liberalism. And I hate putting labels on things like that, but those ideologies are very, very, it's interesting to see that fascist structure is pushing all of those agendas. It really is, and it's coming from the private sector, down from the control freaks at their freaking love festivals.
Look at all of the corporations that engage in all of this woke propaganda stuff that is pushed on everybody, and it's got the support of the government behind it. And what is fascism? They have no right. Yeah, and what is fascism? It is the government colluding with private industry to. That's it. That's what we have. Right. Unfortunately, you can sugarcoat it all you want. You could say, "Oh, I'm part of this party or that party." No, you're not. First of all, you're not. If you were in the club, you wouldn't be struggling right now. There are very few people in the club. We're not in it. Even says, welcome to the 15-minute city. That's right. Greenies want to mandate 15-minute cities where you can walk everywhere in town within 15 minutes, which means you don't need a car to visit a doctor, a dry cleaner, a grocery store, a pharmacy, or any other locations that you would routinely visit for errands and necessities. No, they may sound attractive if you choose it voluntarily, sure, but that's not what the Green New Deal folks have in mind. And if you're not within that 15-minute zone, don't worry about it. Don't go out and do anything. The drone will come and deliver it for you. There's no need for you to wander outside of the 15-minute zones.
That's right. And the permit, of course, you'll need a permit if you want to do anything outside that. Because that's what they're trying to do. They want to eliminate automobiles. And they want to force everybody to ride bikes, batteries, all that kind of crap, right? And these permits, of course, are going to be rationed. And then you'll have to put yourself on a waiting list until it's your turn. And you can pay for a ticket now with the new central bank digital currency, assuming your social credit score is high enough. Oh, and that you didn't vote for the wrong candidate. Yeah, in the last election. See, so all of that. And then you got the censorship, right? So there's that. And everybody knows that it happens every day. Look at us. Oh, yeah, I said the V word. Oh, no. But chances are probably be censored. And he writes, thanks to Elon Musk opening up the Twitter files. We know just how rotten and corrupt the White House, the FBI, and Twitter under Jack Dorsey were in terms of influencing the 2020 election, crushing voices that said that the jab wasn't really safe and effective when they aren't, and saying that Russia's winning in Ukraine when they are. And Twitter created a separate portal for FBI's, the goons, to go in and target individuals. And you see that a lot. Now they're arming the IRS and doing all that stuff, getting all these agents. So then you combine this social credit score with the police state. Well, that's what they do over in China. If you do enough naughty things, oh yeah, the police come down, they pick you up, they put you in a chair, and you can go get retraining. You could go to a camp. There's all sorts of things that you could do. You don't go in front of a judge. You just go. This is the same country that Oregon harvests the Uyghurs.
Right.
I mean, think about that.
Political rehabilitation, Joe. Political rehabilitation.
That's right. I mean, it's really staggering. It's staggering. So you're going to have more people clamoring for that way of life because It's not hard. See, that was one of the things about American independence that kind of was so special, was the fact that when it finally took hold, they understood the cost of being free. And it's a hard thing to do, and you have to defend it. And it's very easy and oftentimes more appealing to relieve yourself of some of that responsibility and hand it over to the government.
Right. Just become complacent and just say, hey.
It's easier, dude. I want to play my video games.
Let somebody else handle it. Culture of convenience, too, right?
Culture of convenience. Big. And it's got its consequences. They've dumbed down the population now. Things that used to be common knowledge are now lost in most cases. Technology advancing will do that. Like, for example, you don't go and do typing class anymore because keyboards are becoming more and more obsolete. So that becomes a lost art. Doesn't mean you don't need to know it. Pretty soon, with AI being more prevalent, you're going to have more of your AI assistants, and those AI assistants are going to be more integrated into your life. And where does all that information go and get stored?
It's also, yeah, I mean, a perfect example. You have like the service called Grammarly, right? Where you throw something in there and it just automatically fixes all your grammar and makes everything sound hunky-dory. So you don't even need to know basic grammar anymore. You don't even need to understand what English class used to teach, because, hey, the AI will just fix your grammar for you. You can throw in your Zoomer lingo essay or whatever.
They are creating. There's a website called Replica. If you check out replica.com, the AI companion who cares, always here to listen and talk, always on your side. And you put the app on your phone, and it is your companion. Your AI companion. And this thing over time learns everything about you. It's a chat bot. Where's all that information go? Think about all the people out there. And of course, there's a good side to that in a lot of ways. I could see something like that being successful, like, say, in a prison population. Give them AI companions, something to talk to. I could see that being a benefit, even in society. But the problem is, where's all that information going? Yeah, it's being stored, but who has access to it? What are you putting out there?
That's another problem. Like, we face a serious problem of loneliness in our society right now.
Huge. We are all isolated, even though we've never been more connected in our lives.
Exactly. Most people's interactions are over, online or whatever, and we've lost this ability to actually go out and have a one-on-one human interaction, conversation. And so people are turning to these things like AI assistants, AI chatbots that will just sit there. Yeah. And not only that,
but how many people out there have a little bit of PTSD because of where society's going? Like, in how many people have seen an uptick in, say, like, car break-ins and thefts of catalytic converters?
Yeah.
I'm just giving that one example, right? Probably happening everywhere on a mass scale and happening a lot more frequent. Look at how criminals are put in jail and then instantly released. So you don't feel necessarily as safe as you used to if you wanted to go out. So you don't. You hole up in your house and can't really meet people. I mean, I guess you could online, but then there's that whole aspect of that. Is who you talking to real or from Nigeria? You know what I mean? And going to scam you.
And a social connection, I always believe, is much different online than person to person. You know,
Very
no matter
much
how no matter how much you think you know the person you're talking to, or how often you see them, it does not replace
No substitute.
human to human interaction with that person.
Absolutely right. 100% agree. Not that there's not value in it, but take a look at the teleworking model, or the remote working model now, where you have these remote jobs that used to not exist. They used to be in the office, but now they're remote. And you're telling me your productivity's gone up? They don't go up. If you're home, you're not doing as much work as you would if you were in the workplace.
You're not focused. You're not focused.
Because I'm doing my laundry, and I can get dinner started, and the kids are acting up, and all this stuff, right? That you used to not do. Now, it's become more the norm. So productivity sap, that costs money. All that there's this negative stuff where, yes, is it nice? Sure, I would love to be able to work from home, but I can tell you, I wouldn't be as productive. I know it.
And another thing with interacting with these AI chatbots is that all you're getting is positive feedback loops from it. And all it does is reinforce everything that you tell it, and reinforce everything.
Do you think that there's like an honest chatbot out there that would like tell you, no, dog, you're effing up, man. You're an ugly son of a bitch.
You need that friend, right? Or whatever, that is like, hey, you're messing up, right? You're messing up, homie. You're messing up, homie.
Need to recalibrate.
You got to give you that tough love, and you know. But if you have an AI chatbot that never disagrees with you, that always reinforces everything you say, then all of a sudden you're going to have a lot of people walking around with, with a lot of delusions.
Well, when you do, you're going to get butt hurt real easy. I'm going to put it that way.
Right.
Because you're not ready for it.
I don't know if that's the same chatbot you're talking about, but there was one that I was looking at, or that they were talking about, where it basically acts as your AI girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just, yeah.
And
that's it. It says explore your relationship, a friend, a partner, or a mentor. Find the perfect companion in Replica.
Yeah, I think that's the one. And it's sad because then you also have a lot of, isolated, lonely people where, they feel that that's the only way that they're going to ever find companionship or whatever.
So listen to this. Here's some, this is on their website, and these are from Wired magazine, talking about Replica. Using Replica can feel therapeutic too, in some ways. The app provides a space to vent without guilt, to talk through complicated feelings, to air anything of your own thoughts without judgment. Is it without judgment, or you don't want to hear the truth about what it is you're trying to vent, if you will? Right. This is the Daily Beast. Daily Beast says, Replica is in essence a push to get you to stop believing all of your own bullshit by giving you a space to be honest and vulnerable with an AI companion who you can, quote, raise in a sense to support you when it feels like you may not have anyone right at the moment. That's Daily Beast. Quartz magazine. Replica encouraged me to take a step back and think about my life, to consider big questions, which is not something I was particularly accustomed to doing. Bloomberg. Replica is a chatbot that does not just talk to people, it learns their texting styles to mimic them. So, I mean, you see, it's like, it's all happy-go-lucky, blah, 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 but it's the hell with reality. It's whatever makes you feel good. It's to get that dopamine rush. It's to, and like I said, there's values in some areas. Like
and
if you have
also, but there's a nefarious side to this because
huge.
Look, because. Okay, what is this company's goal, right? Well, their goal is to make money, and they want people to subscribe to this service. So, of course, the chatbot is going to be programmed to tell them everything they want to hear. Everything.
It's almost like doomsday. That's what they should do. All these doomsday preachers, This is it. We should just have an AI preacher and program all that doomsday stuff into him, right? Like have him watch Begley and all those other guys, like, that preach that, and then they can have an AI version of it that they don't have to donate to. They just do the monthly fee.
You have this chatbot
So
that's feeding you, delusions of grandeur, right? And you're gonna be more than willing to pay that monthly fee to keep talking to that chatbot.
That's
so
right.
It's a brilliant. If you think about it, it's a brilliant marketing.
Don't
strategy.
get scammed by a preacher. Just pay $6.99 a month for replica, and we'll give you all the doomsday fear porn.
All the doomsday,
Hoorah.
all the end times you want.
Oh yeah, prophecy coming straight to you via AI.
Only $6.66 a month.
Now there you go. That's awesome. No, so yeah, I definitely see an issue there. And I think it's leading to instability. It certainly is, which is weird too, because you would think that I guess some people utilize it for good and the advancement of knowledge. I know that's stuff that we've done. Geez, I mean,
right.
The whole and that's the other thing. That's one thing that Bill, the producer here at KGRADB, he always. Well, I didn't catch you prepping, did I? Yeah, okay, yeah, that's what we're doing. Yeah, because we don't prep. This is just current events. Let's see what's going on. Let's talk about it. And then get into how do those tie into what we've learned over the years and what we continue to learn.
Right.
And along the way, we have some really good head scratching moments that we like to share. And yeah. The doomsday preacher thing, it's a head scratcher.
And going back to the AI chatbot thing, right?
Yeah.
I think what this also does to people is, say this person actually does have to go out into the real world and interact with somebody. Then they're not going to be able to handle it, right? Because now you're dealing with an actual person that might. Yeah,
but is it that or is it practice? Like AI practice. Oh, well, I can practice for an interview. AI, let's run a practice interview and a job interview. Well, it's going to do it based on what it knows, but the whole human factor is human equals unpredictable in so many different ways. It's what makes us all unique. And we get into real big trouble when we try to cookie cutter anything when it comes to humanity. We try it with education. It dumbs us down because there's a certain point where you get max benefit and then it drops off a cliff. And that's really the basics. You just want to kickstart the kids. Just kickstart them. Give them that basic knowledge. And then let them go, dude. Everybody's they're wired for something where they're proficient in something, where they naturally gravitate to something. And then when you come to find out, if we just let people naturally develop, they'd say, oh, there's not going to be enough doctors. Why? There's not going to be enough of these or that. Baloney. Nature balances itself out.
All of my graphic design and web design skills and coding and all of that was all self-taught after I got out of school, I tried to do the college thing, and all that. And of course, I got my certificate and for web design and all that. But most of the big stuff, that was after I got out of school, and I just decided to
did it on your own, right?
Did it on my own, and that's what you got to do with people. You got to find what they're good at, and then let them gravitate towards that, and let them kind of take. And that's just the best way to do it, instead of trying to cookie cutter everybody, like you said, the quote unquote education system, more like the indoctrination system that we have
if everybody
now
just ask themselves a very honest question and say, out of that K through 12 education, how much in your daily life have you used, like by percentage of all that knowledge you attained going there? How much do you really use out of all that? And I've always said, even if at most, and I'm fluffing it, 20%.
I mean, you got to have your basics, right? Reading, writing, arithmetic. You know, you got to teach some.
Yeah, but why do you need
stuff.
to know trigonometry unless you're going down that road?
Right, exactly.
No one uses that anymore, and even if you did, you're a mathematician. That's what you do. Outside of that, well, I'm not using it.
If you're naturally gravitating towards the whole mathematics thing, and you can see that there's a,
Right.
that somebody has a proclivity and
knock it out.
Then go for
But
it.
if I'm a musician, what the hell do I care about trigonometry?
Exactly.
I don't care about trigonometry. So that's the point. Is that you don't force these things down people's throats when they don't want to do it, because they're not going to have any. There's no benefit. No benefit. So I don't know. All I can say is, if you look at world events, the world is in chaos. Absolutely so. There's a lot of things going on, but there's only a limited amount of things that you can do. If the pole shift happens tomorrow and the earth tilts 90 degrees, it ain't going to matter what side of the Rockies you're on or the Alps. It doesn't matter if you're on Mount McKinley. None of that, because it ain't up to us. You can do all the prep work and predictions you want, and it's just never going to pan out. You might get lucky, maybe. Broken clocks right twice a day, but unfortunately, it doesn't work out that way.
Look, all you can do is instead of stressing and worrying all the time and getting all...
Have faith.
Have faith and look, just sit back, get a
nice... Let me say this. Let me say this. That's tough. Sometimes it's tough. I'll tell you what. I have a heck of a time. I struggle with that a lot, because there is a feeling or a measure that you feel like you're in control, when in fact you're not. Some people can digest that really easy and adapt to that really easy when they find out. Others, it's like you feel the gears kind of meshing a little bit. I'm the guy that was, and still, from time to time, it's just the human to the spiritual thing. And then, you learn about how all of that works. As we become more technologically advanced, we learn more about our reality and what we live in. And it helps, helps understand.
Sometimes you just gotta take a deep breath. You gotta take a deep breath, step back, throw your hands up in the air, and be like, "Look, this is out of my control. There's nothing I can do
Bill
about
says
this."
Popeye's up next. He's actually going live. Everybody be nice to Popeye tonight too, by the way, because he's had a rough 24 hours. So let Popeye. Everybody go and support Popeye tonight, because the fake butter at the movie theater really did him wrong. And I'm really, everybody say an extra prayer for Popeye.
She should have got some of that Orville Redenbacher.
Oh man, for sure. Well, we're almost out of time. So like I said, remember folks, faith, huge, and don't buy into the snake oil.
Just sit back and enjoy the show. Get a nice frosty beverage.
That's it. Hey, if that 1,000-foot wave's coming in, ride it for the nanosecond before it breaks every bone in your body. Hoorah! That's what I'm talking about. And again, kgradb.com. Don't forget, if you want to go to that Roswell, New Mexico event, June 30th to July 2nd, you can get the tickets right on the website. And go hang out with the gang out there in Roswell. And who knows, maybe soon we will get that alien invasion that we've all been waiting for. Have a good night, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon. Take care.